Look at this, all new and all fancy. This is the Carbon X3. The Carbon X series from Hoka has been an exciting push from the brand known for plush cushion. Hosting huge spectacle-style marketing events in the past catered to the Carbon X, Hoka was able to grab a foothold in the super shoe market and prove that they had the kicks to compete with other brands. In this newest version, the Carbon X3 brings back what many heralded in the Carbon X2, a super responsive midsole with a low embedded carbon plate, hyper-focused roll-through, and a snappy feel for race day efforts. It also brings an entirely new knit upper, tongue, lacing system, and fit that ultimately changes a lot about the shoe. Now, are all of these changes in the Carbon X3 going to keep this shoe at the top of carbon plate lovers' lists, or is it just a little too much change? Let's find out in today's review. What is up, everybody? Ethan Newberry, the Ginger Runner, here for another Ginger Runner review. Today, we're going to be reviewing the Hoka Carbon X3. You're going to notice I'm doing a lot of Hoka reviews right now. They have a lot of products dropping at the beginning of 2022. So I thought, let's just barrage you with Hoka reviews for a bit. Don't worry, I have a number of other shoes and products from other brands that are in rotation that I'll be reviewing very, very soon. But for now, a couple of Hoka reviews today. Carbon X3 is on that list. Now, before we dive into this review, FTC requires me to let you know that these shoes were provided for review by Hoka. I'm under no obligation to say anything positive or negative about the shoe. I am not financially compensated in any way by Hoka for anything that I say in this review. No one has to approve this review. All the opinions are my own. You're the first to see it. Let's dive in. As always, I like to talk about the things that I like and dislike about a product. The Carbon X3, this stiff, snappy little piece of goodness, is no exception. So let's start with the things that I like. Roll through. Now, this is a quality I liked in the original Carbon X. I really liked in the Carbon X2 and carries over quite nicely into the Carbon X3. And that is the foot shape and how the shoe helps roll you through your stride. It is a really neat sensation. The shoe feels like it is propelling you forward. It wants to work with you. Works really well with a high cadence. So even if you're a slower runner, this foot shape doesn't necessarily force you into a position or a form that might not work with your body. I just really like it. You know, Hoka's known for their meta rocker shape and sort of having that roll through in a lot of their shoes. Here in the carbon plated version, it's one of the nicer qualities and the one that really stands out to me and what separates the Carbon X3 from other Hoka shoes. And it is also what has me coming back to the shoes, especially in those speed workouts, tempo workouts, or race day efforts. Just having a shoe underfoot that you feel fast in, it's a nice thing. It's a quality that you really can't underestimate. Responsiveness. I think anytime that you're using a carbon plated shoe, I think responsiveness is going to be part of the equation. In this case, it's sort of what separates the Carbon X3 from its competition across the marketplace. It still has a very dense foam. The supercritical layer helps keep this a really dynamic and tight shoe that focuses on propulsion. I think the shoe ends up working really well, as I mentioned earlier, in the faster environments where you want to pick up the speed. But the Carbon X3 still manages to be an okay trainer if you want to do longer efforts or medium distance efforts at a medium pace for whatever you're used to. It's not super alienating, and it is not super categorical in that it only works for the fastest in the fastest environments. Due in part to that responsiveness, it just becomes a fun, snappy shoe ride. I like it. And finally, durability. I think the new line of Hoka shoes that we're going to be seeing dropping here at the beginning of 2022 are a good indication of what's to come. Whether they're working on their manufacturing processes or the materials that they're using, I'm not seeing a lot of breakdown or premature breakdown in the midsole, in the upper, in the outsole. It's holding up better than I expected based off of previous experiences. So the Carbon X3 holding up really well. Despite having about 55, 60 miles in this shoe, the outsole is holding up well. The midsole isn't caking down or doing any sort of flattening out by any means. And the upper is actually holding up quite well. I'm going to get to the upper and what I think about it here in just a second. But overall, durability, better than I expected. Nice job. That being said, it's not all Donda 2 hype and pizza parties. There are some things that I dislike about the Hoka Carbon X3. Let's get to those now. New upper. So this new knit upper, while it's an interesting fabric and it might work in other shoes in the Hoka line, it does have some redeeming qualities. Does not feel like it works well at all in the Carbon X3 environment. I feel like it's a big step back for the Carbon X series. The shoe continued to evolve. In this case, it evolved backwards. The knit upper doesn't provide a very good lockdown at all through the midfoot. The forefoot and through the toe box, you have a lot of stretch and a lot of give through this more dense, harsher material. Because the upper doesn't have a separate tongue, it is all just like a slipper. You're gonna get a lot of fabric fold over across the midfoot. You're also not gonna be able to get a super solid lockdown. A majority of my fitment issues actually came around the collar of the ankle because you're not able to do a double lace or a lockdown lace at all. The heel doesn't want to lock down. With the swallowtail upper, you lose a lot of friction across the heel. For a shoe that's designed for those who want to pick up the pace and go fast, I felt like this was such a missed opportunity to help keep the shoe on your feet. So the upper, the design, the changes, I think is the biggest drawback with this shoe, especially when compared to the Carbon X2. All of those upper changes ultimately lead to my next dislike, which is just fit. As I kind of mentioned there, getting a good lockdown, getting a consistent lockdown, and keeping your foot inside this upper comfortably, that's the challenge. I didn't dislike the Carbon X2 upper. I wasn't expecting a big change. I was excited that they did something new, but when I actually got my foot in it, tried it out, put some miles on it, I realized that it just doesn't work for me. I do love knit uppers. It's just a matter of application and where and how it's implemented. Here, I don't think it helps in the fit at all with the shoe. And my last dislike is price. It's $200. I get it. Carbon plated shoe. It's going to cost a premium because of the tech and the innovation that goes on in there. What I was hoping is that the shoe would fall closer to the $150 to $170 range. Because it's at that $200 range, it competes with other carbon plated shoes out there on the market. And I'm even going to point out that for half that price, you could get a carbon plated shoe right back there. The Artist from Atreyu, which I recommended last year in my Gear of the Year. That review will be coming soon. That is a fun carbon plated, cushioned yet snappy responsive shoe that gives the Carbon X3 a run for its money for half the cost. Granted, that shoe has its own issues, which I'll get to in my review, but it sort of puts things into perspective. I don't want to pay extra for the knit upper because I don't think it necessarily works well in this application. So I don't know. I think at $200, it's just a really high price point, and that sort of bums me out. But that's it for dislikes. So let's get a bit more specific in our breakdown of 5 different criteria: build quality, comfort, fit, price, and looks, starting with build quality. So I do want to commend Hoka here. They are using materials and designing these shoes to be more durable. That does not just go for the Carbon X3, that goes for the Mach Supersonic, which I am also reviewing today, as well as their Tecton X, which I reviewed earlier this week. I like what they're doing. The build quality is there. In this particular case, it's that knit upper, which I think is a material that would work in other applications, but not here. Comfort-wise, I like that responsiveness. I like that snap. It is a stiff shoe, but not overly stiff where it's going to be super alienating. That roll through is a huge plus. It feels great when you want to pick up the pace and go fast. It is not a super soft shoe compared to other carbon plated shoes out there. So for comfort, it really depends on if you like a responsive shoe, if you like that tight, snappy feel. In some cases, I do. So comfort, I'm going to kind of give it that middle grade. Fit is ultimately where this shoe's biggest weakness is. Because of that upper, that knit mesh, it just doesn't really want to lock down quite well. You never really feel super secure in it, and it doesn't provide you a lot of upper protection or adjustability at all. So the fit is ultimately the problem of the knit. Price, already talked about it, $200. It's up there. Not super keen on that. And finally, looks. I actually like the looks. This color, this orange and this peach are growing on me. When I pulled them out of the box, I actually thought it was pretty reminiscent of the original The One from Ultra that looks kind of bowling shoe-esque. I'm not totally opposed to it. I think the colors are fun, and they're certainly going to stand out in a crowd. But when you start comparing them to the other Hoka shoes that are dropping the first quarter of 2022, there's a lot of orange. They're really focusing on the orange shoes. It's not bad. I just know Hoka to be pretty good in the design department. They always come out with different colorways that I really like. In this case, I don't mind it. I think it's fun. Bringing us to our conclusion about the Carbon X3. I really like the Carbon X3 and Hoka's no-nonsense approach to carbon-plated shoes, especially on the road, where they're focusing on snappiness and propulsion and keeping you moving forward at a fast rate of speed. It's a purposeful built shoe designed to help you go fast, especially in race environments or when you need to pick up the pace. Ultimately, in a market where multiple brands are coming out with their own version of carbon-plated shoes in combination with high cushion, there's a lot of interesting creations out there, a lot of innovation. And I think where the Carbon X3 fails is in that innovative step. We saw a fun update from the Carbon X1 to the Carbon X2, and I really liked the Carbon X2. I was hoping for a really innovative change from the X2 to the X3, really bringing the shoe to the next level to really allow it to compete against some of those other bigger name brands and their carbon super shoe contribution. What we're left with is a shoe that is very similar in feel to the previous version, but a step back in fit, finish, and materials used. I do predict that this will be a divisive shoe. So for those of you who like carbon plated shoes that have that stiffness and that snap, you're really going to like this shoe versus those who are looking for something more cushion, more bounce with that carbon plated snappiness, that really interesting combo that we're seeing now in the super shoes. It's going to be one of those divisive platforms. So all of this brings me to my final criteria is, bottom line, the Carbon X3 a buy, try, or a why? If you are a Carbon X2 fan, this is a try, because I want you to get your foot in it. I want you to see that the underfoot feels very similar to the X2, but at the upper may or may not work for you. For those people, it's going to be a try. Otherwise, it might be a why. Why not get the Carbon X2? Why not get the Artist from Atreyu? There's just other options out there that might get you a funner experience underfoot that have better fit, finish, and feel at a lower price point, especially now on sale. So that is where I ultimately leave my review of the Carbon X3. The question now turns to you. Have you tried the Carbon X2 or the X3? Is this a shoe that interests you? Let's get a little bit more specific here. Do you like this knit upper? Do you like knit uppers in general? Because that I actually am quite curious about. We're seeing it in more shoes coming out this year, and I'm just curious if it's going to work for a lot of us. And that is it for today's review. Hope you guys liked it. If you have any more questions or want more information about the Carbon X3, I have links in the description that take you over to Running Warehouse. They are affiliate links that cost you nothing, but they do, of course, help the channel out. So please consider using those to buy any of your running gear and stuff like that. We very much appreciate it. And of course, check out the other reviews, including the Mach Supersonic, which I dropped today as well. You may want to check that shoe out. If you like today's review, make sure you like, favorite, and subscribe to this channel. Click that notification bell. You'll be notified anytime we post a new review, new video, new live stream, anything like that. We are doing daily live streams as well, just for GR Crew members. If you would like to join the GR Crew, all you got to do is go to patreon.com/thegingerrunner. As little as $2 a month gets you access to some really fun perks on the back end. We're really proud of that. The community is amazing. It's worldwide. And we've got a book club, we've got trivia night every week, we've got a Discord server, a whole bunch of fun stuff. We would love to have you join the crew. That's it. Train hard, race harder, and party the hardest. I know I am. We'll see you guys next week. Bye-bye.